the global game jam. It's one of the biggest game jams in the world, and it would give you a theme and a brief amount of time to execute something. In games, we've just seen it take off fantastically because it's a powerful tool both internally and as a broader kind of community building experience. The farthest edges are oftentimes the most interesting in a space, but they also are sometimes just going to be dead ends, and you're going to feel like you have nothing to show at the end of it.
Chelsea Howe is a veteran game designer known for her innovative approach to creativity and team learning through game jams. Drawing from years of leading jams across studios, she has developed a thoughtful philosophy on how constraints, collaboration, and experimentation unlock breakthrough ideas. Join us as we dive into Chelsea's insights on building effective game jams, why structure and incentives matter, and how AI tools are reshaping rapid prototyping for teams of all skill levels.
So first of all, you've run game jams for years in various forms. For those who aren't familiar, what is a game jam or a product jam?
The hallmark of a game jam or a hackathon is some sort of focal point, some sort of intent, and some sort of time duration. When I started out, the most popular format was a 48-hour game jam. The global game jam started out that way. It's one of the biggest game jams in the world, and it would give you a theme and then a very brief amount of time to execute something. And this isn't unique to the game design field. You see 48-hour film jams as well. You see a lot of art contests that have this sort of theme plus time limitation. I think in games, we've just seen it take off fantastically because it's a powerful tool both internally and as a broader kind of community building experience.
So let's say somebody is excited, wants to create a game jam inside of their company. What are some of the most important factors for them to consider as they're setting it up?
I think some of the highest level ones are your incentive structure. Why should people do this? What's exciting about it? What's in it for them, if anything? Your group formation structure. How big are groups going to be? Are people going to self-select? Are you going to help with the selection? Are you concerned at all about the variety of skills and abilities? Because that's a very hard thing to manage with game jams. And then I think the final thing is theme and timing, because again, constraints breed creativity. There's a lot of ways that having a jam that goes too long will just make people exhausted, or it will make them overscope and then not wind up with anything. So I would say that those are the three highest level things that make the biggest impact on the jam itself.
How is AI changing the way that these jams go?
It's providing a very interesting new default. I think having a default for folks to fall into is really important, because oftentimes you'll say, okay, go. And people waste 5 to 6 hours just being like, are we using Unreal? Are we using Unity? And now it's, well, here, guys, just go in, use one of whatever the AI du jour prototyping toolkit is, and just try with that. And the people who feel passionately about it, they can still go off and use Unity or use Unreal or use whatever tool that they want, but you've eased folks in who need it. The vast majority of people who don't care that much about what tool they use just have something that they can instantly gain access to. It's also been helpful with skill set, right? It used to be that if you didn't have an artist in your game, your output was just going to be terribly ugly. It was going to be programmer art. It was going to be stick figures. It was going to be MS Paint drawings. And now you can get something that's 80%, right? Because AI can get you 80% of the way there. Same
Right.
with coding, right? If you can vibe code now, you don't necessarily need an engineer. It used to be if you didn't have an engineer, you weren't going to make anything more than a pitch deck. And now we've seen a lot more different types of people able to make full-fledged game prototypes much more easily.
How do you leverage info sharing after or during a game jam?
So for me, it's very different internally versus externally. Externally, you want to have that moment where everyone comes together, when everyone shares, and it tends to be much more presentation oriented, right? I'm telling you how it went and showing you the finished product. When it's internal, I find it much more collaborative at scale. We have a dedicated channel People constantly post, hey, this seems to be working well. Hey, could anyone help me out with this? Hey, ran into this issue. Here's my prompt. Any suggestions? And you get much more of a kind of real-time collaboration across groups. One thing we've also been trying internally is we make presentations optional, especially when you're working with AI, especially when you're doing these kind of weird new things. We didn't want having a presentable end product to shape people's willingness to try really weird things. The farthest edges are oftentimes the most interesting in a space, but they also are sometimes just going to be dead ends, and you're going to feel like you have nothing to show at the end of it. And we wanted that to be 100% okay. And we have seen people go in wildly different and sometimes fruitless directions. But for us, that was preferable over, hey, you have to have a finished, playable end product that you can put in front of everyone.
That's such good advice because it's very easy to focus on the presentations. It's the obvious thing.
Go just try something and report back. Then the end product is more so the knowledge than something playable or interactive. And a lot of that just gets captured in that collaborative Slack channel that we have without the pressure of being like, yeah, guys, I actually spent 48 hours working on whether I could make a UI tool that would let me WYSIWYG drag and drop stuff into our HUD. It failed miserably, but here's all the interesting issues I ran into. People are just emotionally less inclined to present something that might be perceived as a failure. And we do a ton of work in terms of messaging to be like, finding what doesn't work is just as important and sometimes more so than finding what does. But it's still humans being humans, right?
That's an incredible way within a team to crowdsource AI knowledge because so much of the knowledge is pushing on the boundaries and seeing where it breaks and seeing where it doesn't work. So being able to create a space where your team is sharing that knowledge really levels up your team.
That's our goal. We've said in no uncertain terms, like, we don't care how much you engage, but you cannot disengage with this. Like, you must be open to learning. You must be open to trying. None of us have mandated like using AI in any particular flow, right? It always comes down to it's the right tool for the job. But we are very dedicated to being like, hey, this seems to be a really effective tool for these use cases. It is a skill, and we don't want people to ignore that. And the worst thing we could be is ignorant.
What are one or two things that you've seen derail game jams?
First ones I've seen are often in sponsored jams. If you are forcing a specific tool or a specific technology, then the learning hurdle is going to take up a ton of time. And most of these are 24 or 48-hour jams. You don't have the time to be learning an entire brand new tool for the most part. A lot of what you need to be doing is, exploring and bringing your existing knowledge set. If it's not compatible, it's just going to suffer. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is making sure that game jams provide recognition, but to be very cautious about having them provide reward. Recognition is something where it's like, hey, you guys had fantastic tech. We want to recognize that. You get like the best in tech. Reward is here's physical goods, or here's a monetary gain, or here's a whatever. That again focuses the game jam on the presentation and the end product in a way that I've often seen just limits the creativity, limits the level of experimentation, and limits the learning and outcomes. Now, if you're a company who has a brand new tool and you want interesting things to market, I could see why in that specific set of constraints, that would be useful for you because you want polished, presentable things that can show off, hey, our product works. In most other cases of product development, I feel the experimentation, the learning, the exploring the creative possibility space is far more important. So be very cautious of your incentive structure.
So what happens if you offer rewards? What happens to the jam that makes it go negative?
You turn it into something competitive. I've talked about how our channel is always overflowing with shared knowledge. Hey, this worked for me. Can I get some help on this? If this is a competition, if there's real world, real money rewards, that's inherently going to impact the emotional tenor between and within groups. Between groups, there's no incentive to help, right? Within a group, there's a lot more pressure for you to perform. You're not going to want to be as experimentative if there's a kind of normal but known thing that you could just lean into. So it's going to cause a lot more fallback onto known patterns, known mechanics, and a lot less of that kind of bluer sky thinking that personally we love to see when we utilize game jams.